This morning, we're bringing you the first look at a new study about the critical role digital communities play in the lives of young people in the LGBTQ+ community. The report was released today by Hopelab and the Born This Way Foundation. It shows nearly half of young people feel very safe expressing their identities online, compared with just around 1 in 10 in person. Many people surveyed said online platforms gave them more control over their interactions and that their online friendships were, quote, life-saving. One teen said, without online spaces, I wouldn't be here today. Gen Z mental health advocate Jorge Alvarez is here to talk about the impact of having safe digital spaces, and Claudia-Santi Fernandes has more details from the report. She's the Vice President of Research and Evaluation for the Born This Way Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for this important conversation. Claudia, I'm going to start with you. In addition to what we just mentioned about feeling safer, what respondents said their online friends were around twice as supportive as family members. Talk more about that.
Sure, I'd love to. Well, this is corroborated by the research that's out there that says that peer relationships are so important, and that's online and that's in person. And importantly, what young people shared in our report was that those who would be the most beneficial in reading the report were parents and families. So they want to call them in to be a part of this process and read it, learn about their recommendations, their suggestions, and really listen to what they are saying.
So there are pros and cons, of course, to online spaces, Jorge. The survey also found more than 1 in 3 young people still experienced bullying or teasing online in the last year because of their identity. And I guess that's not super surprising. Let's talk about what needs to be done to address that. I assume concerns are high when you look at the major social media platforms actually pulling back on some of the things that actually try and prevent some of that bullying, right?
No, absolutely. So first and foremost, I think what's really important is that these platforms do a better job and continue to show up for young people by listening and then ultimately responding. So by asking the same question that you're asking me right here today, I also think we're seeing an unprecedented moment where a lot of educational and critical content that makes young people, especially LGBTQ youth and young people, feel really seen and heard. We're seeing that content, that educational and sincere content being censored. And so I think what's really important is that we create more opportunities for the right content, that positive content, to be uplifted. So that way young people have access to the critical life-saving tools and resources that can be amplified through social media.
Because through that, so many lives can be saved if you get the right information out there. Claudia, another safety concern is the potential for government restrictions on LGBTQ+ affirming content that's posted online. There was an overwhelming majority of young people worried about what their government is doing on the state and federal level that could limit access to online communities. Talk about what kind of legislation we're seeing here, what the worry is.
Well, when young people are concerned about the legislation and they're concerned about how it's impacting their lives, it's important to listen to them then even more. And so our process with this research survey was to include young people in it at every stage and step of the way. So, for example, they co-created the survey with us to develop the questions. And then we asked over 1,200 young people from the LGBT community, the questions that we had, the 67 questions. After we looked over the data, and we made sure that it was informed by their lived experiences. And then lastly, what we did, and what's very important, and I hope everyone pays attention to this, including legislators, we asked them to review the data and review our findings and give us actionable strategies. So things like content moderation, things like, including LGBTQ-friendly sites online. These are things that they are asking for, and we need to ensure that we're listening.
And do you get if there's one thing that can be done right now, what would you want it to be?
Become an active ally. That is what they asked for us. And so you can do that by reading this report, listening to their perspectives, and taking action with their recommendations in mind.
Jorge, this survey shines a light on why it is so important for LGBTQ+ youth to have these safe spaces online, but elaborate on why this is so important, especially right now.
Definitely. Well, first, I think becoming an ally and ensuring that, again, you are acting on what young people are saying is so critical, and I want to amplify that time and time again. But to answer your question directly, I think right now, regardless of identity, whether you identify as LGBTQ+, whether you are a first-gen college grad, Black, Indigenous, Latine. These digital spaces are essentially a lifeline, are a safe space, a refuge for a lot of young adults who, quite frankly, don't have access to safe community, mentors, advocates in their lives that they can lean on. And so ultimately, I think what's really important is that we think of these spaces as, really unique hubs for community, and that needs to be protected 100%.
All right. Jorge Alvarez and Claudia-Santi Fernandes, thank you for your time this morning and for talking about the results of this important survey. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.